Quarantine's over and you can't wait to travel, but you're broke. Lucky for you, today we're going to tell you just how far your dollar can stretch all over the world. Let's start with something called the Big Mac Index, which tells you how much you pay for this super calorific layered sandwich all over the world. It's sometimes used to give people an idea about how expensive a country is. If you have little cash in the bank for your vacation, you might want to skip your trip to Switzerland, which comes right at the top of the index. A Big Mac there costs you a whopping $7.29, at least as of January 2021. Sweden and Norway come next, but what might surprise you is the US is in fourth place. The home of the Big Mac isn't cheap. We looked at DoorDash for an area in New York called Crown Heights, and even fries were $2.27. A Big Mac was $6.60, and so for $1 you can't really get much. You can, however, buy 2 cookies, since they're 49 cents each. If you head over to Russia, you can get yourself a Big Mac for just $1.88. We used an online delivery website again to see what we might buy for just $1. For about $1, you can get the egg and cheese muffin, which isn't bad at all. At least it beats a couple of cookies. For just over $1, you can also get 2 cheese muffins. You can get rolls with cottage cheese and a big tub of oatmeal, both for around $1 each. You can also get your fries for under $1, and you can wash them down with a large Coke, which costs pretty much $1 exactly. That's the same cost as a large Coke in South Africa. Just to put things in perspective, we tried to buy some Mackie D's in Leeds in the UK, and that egg and cheese muffin was almost 3 times more expensive than it was in Russia. There was nothing on the menu for less than $1, not even what the English call fizzy drinks. A single espresso was the cheapest thing we saw, coming in at $1.11. Those Yorkshire men and women sure have to work hard for their scran. Lastly, we headed over to McDonald's in Thailand, a country where today you can walk down the street and get a plate of rice with some stir-fried chicken and basil for about $1. This dish is arguably the most eaten dish in the country. Sometimes it might cost about 40 baht though, which is over $1. At the Thai McDonald's, you can get a corn pie for under $1 and also an Oreo McFlurry and a chocolate sundae. As for drinks, we couldn't find any for under $1. We visited websites where people that call themselves digital nomads talk about living abroad, including costs. It seems these days there are many of these folks, since working outside of an office has become the norm for so many people. We were told that Ukraine is a fabulous place to work, and it is very, very cheap. We are also just going to say here that prices vary from city to city in most countries, but expat websites will give you average costs. In Ukraine, you can get a beer for about $1, or you could get 2 cans of Coke instead. That same website told us that in the US, that same amount of beer costs $5. Ukraine shops might charge you about $1 for 12 eggs, which again is far cheaper than the US. For just under $1, you can also get 1 kilo of rice or a kilo of apples or bananas. To fill up, you can also buy 2 kilos of potatoes. Again, just to give you an idea of how cheap this is, in the US in some places you'll pay about $2.50 for 1 kilo of potatoes. Okay, now something for all you folks out there that embrace your so-called bad habits. If you like beer and you aren't rich, don't bother visiting Qatar, where half a liter of beer is over $12. If you want a beer for $1 or less, you might have to stay out of most of Europe, and to be fair, most of the world. But if you go to the countries of Colombia, Paraguay, Armenia, Vietnam, Ethiopia, and Nigeria, you can easily buy half a liter of beer in a restaurant for under $1. As for another bad habit, smoking, you'd have to be positively wealthy to get through a pack of Marlboros in a day in some nations. In Australia, 1 pack costs a whopping $27 US. In the UK, it's $15, and in the US, it's $8. In Vietnam, that same pack will cost you just over $1, and in Nigeria and Kazakhstan, you're looking at pretty much $1 a pack, give or take a few cents. As for wine, that can also set you back in a lot of countries. Even some places where some things are cheap, such as Thailand and Indonesia, wine is prohibitively expensive. A pretty low standard of wine in the former will cost you about $20, and in the latter country about $15 if you buy from a shop. One of the reasons for this is the import tax and the fact that so many wines are imported. Usually, you'll be paying in the region of 4 times more than the country where the wine came from. If you want good wines for $1 a glass, buy the bottle in the country it's made. Okay, so what about the other popular drink that your car can't get enough of? Gasoline. It's pretty expensive in Hong Kong, at $2.30 a liter. But then, who wants to drive in a city that looks like a real-life version of the game Mousetrap? In Australia, where you can drive for hours and hours and not see another car, a liter costs about $1. In the US, you'll pay way less than $1 for a liter. The US actually has relatively very cheap gas. But if you want gasoline so cheap you'll want to take the stuff home with you, go to Libya, where you can get almost 10 liters for $1. In Algeria, Kuwait, and Nigeria, you can get almost 3 liters for $1. In Qatar and Saudi Arabia, you can buy 2 liters of gas for $1 and walk away with some change in your pocket. In Iraq and Malaysia, for 2 liters, you might have to use your entire dollar. Okay, so now let's imagine you're going to travel abroad and work and you want to make your money go far. First of all, what so many budding digital nomads don't get is, sure, you can live like a local for very cheap in many countries, but if you want a modern condo, Western food, and you want to dine out, well, life might not be cheap at all, or at least not as inexpensive as you thought it would be. Still, some things might save you money, and one of them is transportation costs. Ask any Londoner who's got a long commute and needs to pay for a parking spot about their travel costs. It ain't cheap. English trains, too. What's up with them being so damn expensive? Then you have taxis, which are often quite the luxury in parts of Europe, but if you head to parts of South Asia, you can get around pretty cheaply. The average cost for a 1-kilometer taxi tariff in Germany is about $2.50. In the US, it's about $1.60, and it's a bit more in the UK. But in beautiful Croatia, it's only about $1. It's a similar cost in Palestine, South Africa, and Nigeria. But man, if you head to Vietnam, you can scoot around the same distance for 68 cents. In China, you can go 3 times as far as in the US for $1 as you can in the Philippines. In Pakistan, India, and Uzbekistan, you can go way further for $1, with the reason being that so many people on low wages rely on taxi services. With that in mind, if you're not intent on eating in Michelin-starred restaurants in Hanoi's French Quarter, and you can live without hanging with high sauce in Bangkok who've paid 4 times more for their borscht than someone in the US, or if you don't mind foregoing cheese and wine nights, where only the wealthy dare go in Lagos, you can live pretty cheaply since many low-wage earners need cheap food, cheap gasoline, and cheap taxis. Russia is one of those lands of extreme wealth gaps too. Moscow was one of the cities mentioned in the survey as being terribly costly, especially if you want to visit swanky clubs. New York City and Hong Kong were also mentioned, but in the latter 2 cities, pretty much everything is expensive. You can still travel by taxi in Moscow for a really cheap price. In fact, some of the cheapest prices on the planet. Your dollar will get you a short journey. You can drive to the supermarket and for $1 go 3 ways on a bottle of vodka. Pick up a liter of milk while you're there for another $1. As for foods, get yourself 2 kilos of onions for $1, and for another $1, get 2 kilos of tomatoes. Doing pretty much the exact same thing in Hong Kong will cost you about 3 times as much. In New York City, you'll likely have to spend 4 times as much for the exact same exciting day out. But let's now think about luxuries that everyone in a country wants. Even in countries with almost criminal wealth disparities. One of those things is going out to watch a movie. This is where the rich and poor for once in their life might end up sitting together. Although one dude might not have bothered with the insanely expensive bag of popcorn. The Brits watching this know what we're talking about. You can't actually watch a Hollywood movie that has just come out anywhere in the world for $1. Though in Afghanistan, you won't pay much more. If you consider that most theaters in most countries have cheap days, maybe $1 is possible there. Another example is Montreal's Dollar Cinema, where you can watch movies for $1 if you buy enough tickets at the same time and the film isn't a new release. It's the same in India. You can get some sweet deals if you want to go and watch Bollywood movies. In the city of Chennai, the average cost of a movie ticket is only about 80 cents. Take your family and buy some cheap snacks and you'll likely pay no more than $5. When we say cheap snacks, we mean it. You can get 5 filled pancakes called dosas for $1 if you get them in the street. In food terms, this is the country where your dollar goes far and the array of tastes is amazing. On the other side of the world, in the UK, a person with some Indian ancestry might want to take their kids to see a movie. If they do, that trip, according to the UK media, will likely cost them in the region of $140. Add that to taxi costs, and you can understand why so many working-class families would rather stay in and watch EastEnders. But then the UK has pretty much built an entire economy for the poor. You have super cheap supermarkets such as Aldi, a place where many grocery snobs wouldn't be seen dead. There, you can pick up 3 cans of everyday essentials baked beans for $1. All you need now is bread. You can get 2 full loaves if you buy the Village Bakery brand. The children want cheesy beans, of course, so for $1 you buy a pack of 8 cheese slices made by Emporium Kids. Now you've got a veritable feast for the family. Plus, you have the $1 bottle of Orchard apple cider to wash down the beans. Ah, life is beautiful. You can pity all those expats in Asia paying 4 times as much for the same stuff from their Western-style supermarkets. Problem is, if you want to fire up that TV and see what's going on in Albert Square, you'll need some electricity. You may also need to heat your place. The rent alone in the UK can pretty much take up most of someone's wage, and you might only be getting a tiny place. We won't go into how much electricity and gas can get you for $1, but we'll look at utility costs around the world. The UK comes very high at an average of $218 a month. Israel, Hong Kong, Austria, Slovenia, and Germany are the only countries with higher costs. In the US, where wages are similar to the UK, but also where many houses don't resemble rabbit hutches, The average monthly cost of utilities is $168. Still, according to average house rental costs, the US average is slightly higher than the UK. Both countries are in the top bracket at over $1,000 a month on average. That will of course sound low to anyone here who is from Manhattan or most of London. You can head over to Ecuador or Belarus or Malaysia or Bulgaria, and in fact many places around the world, and get a much better looking place in a much better looking area for a third of the cost. Your utility bills will also cost much, much less. But if you live in Kenya or Bolivia, utilities on average will cost you about 8 times less than the US. It's similarly cheap in digital nomad havens such as Mexico, Vietnam, Costa Rica, India, Thailand, and Colombia. Remember though, what you save on heating the place you might lose on air conditioning costs. So there you go. We hope we've provided you with some insights that'll help you prepare for your post-lockdown travel. Now you need to watch Spend $1 Billion in 24 Hours or Lose It All Challenge. Or have a look at how man won crazy money by hacking a game show.